So dear students, welcome to Darasa Online. It is economic session. You are welcome for economics. So our subject here, it is economics. So our today's topic you're going to discuss, it is the topic of environmental economics. Topic, it is environmental economics. Now remember this topic, it is trying to connect between different economic activities and their impact on the environment, or it is describing the relationship between different economic activities like agriculture, mining, manufacturing, tourism, and how they can affect the environment. Or in other words, we want to see how the environment and the economy and economics is related. Remember, we said economics is how to use scarce resources in effective way or in the best way. And remember, these resources, in most time, they are drawn or taken from the environment. Now I want to see, by using the concept of economics, how can we use the environment in the best optimal way or in the best efficient way? Because as I said, we are drawing resources from the environment, of which in one way or another, it can be affected positively or negatively. So the aim of this topic, it is to relate the relation between environment and economic activities. That is the aim. And remember again, this topic, it is one of the interesting topic because I said it is dealing with the issue related to environment against economic activities. So it is interesting because we are doing it and practicing it every time in our daily life, because whether you are farming, in agriculture, manufacturing, tourism, or whatever, you'll be relating between those activities and the economic aspect of that society. So it has so many subtopics, and among those subtopics, one of the subtopics which is bringing problem to students, it is this one. So our subtopic here, we are going to discuss the subtopic. It will be externalities and the public goods or public goods. So our today's discussion will focus on this part, on this subtopic, that is externalities and the public good. So you might have idea on what is externality generally, or you might have idea on what is a public good, but today's discussion may take you to another point of knowing the difference between the two terms and how different public goods they can be produced and consumed in the society. That is the aim. And finally, you'll get some questions to discuss at your own. Then let's start with a public good. So we want to know, what do we mean when we say public good? And this term, it is mostly used in economics, and sometimes even for people who are not economists, they use this term in different way. Economic good. So we have public good, economic good, private goods, and other goods. But now, what is a public good? Now, a public good, we say a public good is a good or a service of which the consumption by one individual do not reduce its availability for other individuals in the society to consume. That is a public good. So when we say public good, we refer to all kind of goods which, when that good is produced, when one person is consuming that good, it is not reducing the possibility of other person to use that good. It means that good is there to be used collectively. That means we can also say they are goods or services that are collectively consumed. It means when we speak of public goods, we are speaking of those goods when they are produced, when one individual is going to consume that good. it is not, or he is not, or she is not reducing the availability of that good to be consumed by another individual. For that case, they can also be consumed collectively. There are some goods in the society which we are using all of us together, and on using them, when one individual is using, that individual cannot reduce the amount of that good to be used by another individual. Then if we have such goods, then we say they are public goods. For example, if we have goods like national defense service. The national defense is an example of a public good. We have some others like street lights. They are public goods. We have others, maybe you can use the example like roads. We have those like firefighting agencies, etc. These firefighting agents in Tanzania, we commonly say zimamoto. Those are public goods, because when we use those public goods, they are there for every individual in the society, and they are not excluding anyone from using them. So we use them in such a way that when one person is using, that person is not reducing the ability of that good to be used by another person. So for goods like roads, goods like street lights, those national defense, and other good of that nature, then we say those goods, they are public goods. Now these goods, let's say for example, so to get more knowledge, let's say for example, if good X, let's say good X is a public good. That is good X. So we assume that good X is a public good. Any good X, we know it is taking example of any public good. That is, good X is a public good. Then we say this good is used by two individuals. Let's say XA is amount of goods consumed by individual A. That is consumption of X by individual A. It means we said we have two individuals, individual A and B. These two individuals, they are wishing to consume this public good X. Now, XA stands for the amount or the quantity of good X consumed by individual A. Likewise, if we have XB, this XB stands for quantity of goods, good X consumed by individual B. So here it will be consumption of X by B, individual B. So these two individuals, they are consuming this X, which is a public good. Then we said XA, it is the quantity of good X consumed by A, and XB, it is quantity of good X consumed by individual B. Now, because X is a public good, we expect for a public good, it should be, because said the consumption of that good by one person does not reduce its availability for another individual. So we expect to conclude it in this way. It means if X is a good that is consumed by these two individuals, or whatever number of individuals, then you expect this is to be equivalent to XA and equivalent to XB. That is the meaning. It is indicating that when the good X is a public good, that X provides the same consumption to individual A and provides the same consumption to individual B. Assume now, for example, let's say this good X, it is a road. If a certain person is using that load, it means another person can use that load in the same way without being depleted. For that case, we say good X will give consumption to individual A, likewise what we can get from individual B. So good X should be equal to XA, should be equal to XB, because we said the consumption of that good by individual A do not or does not reduce availability for individual B, because individual B will get the same service. Then we say this is a public good. And for these public goods, like national defense, they prohibit this characteristic. That is for this case. Now, having that one, let's check the characteristics of public goods. Now, a public good must possess the following characteristics. Though some we have discussed in the definition, but for a pure public good, it should have the following characteristics. Number one, public goods, they are non-excludable. Non-excludable. What do we mean when we say non-excludable? It means when a public good is produced, the consumption of public good does not exclude anyone from consuming it. That means it does not exclude anyone from using it. So it means when a public good is produced, it does not exclude any member of that society, any member of that area to consume that public good. That is for the case of this excludability. So it means, for example, say goods like national defense, goods like street lights, goods like roads and other public goods, they cannot exclude any member of the society from using that goods. For example, if we have a road, it is constructed in the street or in the society, that road, even if someone didn't contribute to the production of that road, it will not exclude him or her from using it just because he or she did not contribute. So for that case, that public good, it is non-excludable. In general, we say it's non-excludability. That is one. But another one, we say, number two, we say it is non-rival. Non-rival, or we say this one, it is non-depletability. Non-rival, or we say non-depletability. What do we mean? We mean that when a public good is produced, the consumption of one individual does not reduce. That's why we say it is non-depletability, because to deplete means to reduce the amount or to reduce the capacity. It means if, as we said, if X is a public good, if individual A uses that public good, that individual do not reduce the amount to be used by individual B. That's what, when we say non-rival. It means in private goods, for example, when we go in the normal market, when we buy those private goods, like we want to buy maybe rice, we want to buy maybe maize or beans, whatever, those are rival, because when individual one is using that good, it is he or she is reducing the bit of that good to be used by another person. That's why you can visit those markets that can say this good is no longer here. That means some other individual, they have already bought it and it is no longer in the market. That means it has been depleted for other individuals to use. But for public good, it is non-rival and it is non-depletability, because it cannot, the consumption of one individual does not reduce it for consumption of another individual. That is non-rival. So this is also the second characteristic of a pure public good. I said consumption by one person do not reduce its availability for another person. That is one of the common characteristics of a pure public good. Then the third characteristic, we can see the third characteristic, they have the so-called joint consumption, that is third, joint consumption or collective consumption. Can say collective consumption. It means another feature of a public good. Public goods, they have a tendency of joint consumption. It means for public goods, when they are produced, the individuals or group of people in the society, they can consume it at once without affecting each other. So for that case, we say these goods, they have joint consumption. For example, I said an example along the, maybe in when we use roads or we use national defense, we are using it or we are benefiting it together as a group, together as a society. And that consumption does not affect anyone from using it. So it is joint consumption. And the last one, number 4, it can, or the result can result into a free rider problem or free rider case. Now, most of the public goods, especially pure public goods, they have a tendency of creating free rider problem. What is free rider problem? I said in one of the characteristics that public goods, they are non-excludable. We said when they are produced, they cannot exclude anyone from using it. I gave an example of a road. When a road is constructed, there is no a member of a society who will be excluded from using that road. So all the members will be using that road because it is free and it is just public to everyone. Now, because of that tendency, during production of that good, when the society is demanded to contribute, for example, maybe this is village X. Village X. This village is wishing to construct a road to connect it to maybe to other village or within that village. Now we expect individuals to contribute. How do they contribute? Either they contribute by paying tax or paying whatever contribution will be decided by the government or whatever will be decided in that society. Now, because some individuals, they are sure when that road will be produced, they will not be excluded. They cannot contribute. So they decide not to contribute because they are sure that when that good will be produced or when that road will be produced, they will also use that road without being excluded. So if village X decide to construct a road, as I said, then among the members of this village decide not to contribute in production of this road. For example, maybe if they are required to go to work person by person to contribute to the production of this road, then some members, they decide not to contribute because they are sure that once it is produced or once it is constructed, they are going to use it because of this non-excludable problem. Then that tendency of some individuals to refuse to contribute the production of public good, knowing that when it is produced, they are going to use, it is called a free rider problem. And this is very common for public good. You can find even some people in the society, they are not paying tax, they are not contributing to anything produced, but because they are sure that those roads, those defense, street lights, they are public goods, even if they don't contribute, they will not be excluded from using them. Then they create the so-called the free rider problem because you enjoy the benefit of public good without contributing. So it means there will be members of the society who will be benefiting from the consumption of public good, but they have never contributed to the production of that public good. Then we say this is a free rider. So all public goods, they may exhibit this kind of free rider problem. So public goods, they may have these 4 characteristics among them. Now, before completing this part of public goods, we have something to note here. Note, sometimes you may have public goods, but the degree of publicness can be reduced or can be narrow. Remember, we said public goods, it is there for all members of the society. That means sometimes the degree of publicness of a public good can be affected by 2 factors. It means there are 2 factors which they can affect the degree of publicness of a public good. I said, for example, a road is a public good. National defense is a public good. Street light, they are public goods. Firefighting agents, public goods. But these public goods, they can sometimes, their degree of public can be affected, can be limited, or cannot work as pure public goods. Either they can involve excludability condition, or they can be non-liable for one time. Now, if a good is a public good, then it is having a sense of this condition. That means it is no longer non-excludable. It is excluding some members. That means that good, it is lacking or it is affected by some factors. For example, these factors, you can say we have one, the so-called spatial distribution. Spatial distribution. Now, this is the first factor that can limit the power of public good to save everyone. Because I said all public goods, they are non-excludable, but it can reach a time due to spatial distribution. Spatial distribution can also say geographical location. The location of that public good can make some people not to enjoy the benefit of the public good. For example, we have given the issue of firefighting agents. We said in Tanzania, we commonly call them as zimamoto. Those ones, they are public goods. But sometimes they cannot save some members of society because of their location. For example, in those areas where those which are highly populated, we call them as high density areas. There are those areas where people are too much overpopulated to an extent, even a passage of a road is very difficult. In Tanzania, for example, those people living in Dar es Salaam, this area probably you can find the areas or streets around Manzese. They are very common to find this problem, that there is high density to an extent, even passing from one area to another, it is difficult. They are too much congested. Then you say that high density. Now, these people, for example, we have firefighting agents, Zimamoto. There is a house getting problem there, but that Zimamoto cannot reach there. That means they miss that service, not because the firefighting agents has refused, but because their location limit the firefighting agents to reach that point. So the house can be destroyed completely by fire, but the firefighting is there, but is not reaching that point because of the partial distribution. Geographical location is not there. That means that agents cannot reach because of geographical area. So geographical factors can limit or reduce the power of public good to benefit the individual society. So some individuals can feel like excluded, but the reason is not the agents because of geographical location or spatial distribution factors. The second factor which can also affect public good, it is the so-called capacity limitation. Capacity limitation. This is the second factor which can limit public good. That is number 2, capacity limitation. Some public goods can also not work as pure public goods because of capacity reasons. This is very common in roads, railways, and these we say bridges, where they have special carrying capacity. That means when you go beyond a certain capacity, you cannot use that road. Now we said, for example, a road is a public good, but some individuals, they are excluded from using it because of capacity. For example, if we say this is, maybe it is, let's say this is Ali Hassan Mwinyi Road. Ali Hassan Mwinyi Road. Let's say the carrying capacity is only, that's an example, is only 10 ton. It means only cars and other vehicles which they are less than 10 tons, they can pass there. Any vehicle, either lorries or whatever, which they are going beyond 10 tons, that means they will be excluded from using that road. So it is losing the capacity or the feature of being a public because it is excluding some members, but the reason it is carrying capacity. That road, that bridge cannot allow a passage of a certain capacity of that item. Now for that case, you find this road will lose some qualities of being a pure public good just because of the carrying capacity. That means it cannot carry beyond that one. We have also issues like you can find in those public buildings, we have the lift. Those lifts, they are free to everyone, but they have carrying capacity because if you go beyond a certain weight, it can cause problems. Now for that case, they will be excluded because of carrying capacity. Then we say that is one of the factors which can limit the publicness of a public good. And this is when we speak of public good. Now having seen these public goods, let's see to the other part which you said, it is now externalities. Externalities. You might know what is externality. Remember we said this topic, it is relating between the environment and different economic activities. Now when we speak of externalities, let's try to check this example. In Tanzania, we have so many industries that they are working in different areas as processing and manufacturing industries. We have those, for example, maybe cement manufacturing industries, like, I don't know, the Twiga cement, Mbeya cement, Tanga cement, etc. We have other industries which they are processing different goods and services. Now, these industries, on their operation, they might be causing effect to the environment and effect to the society. And those effects may be positive or negative. That is, we have industry constructed somewhere, it is processing and producing goods and services. Now, in the operation, that industry might be producing negative or positive effect to the society. then now that negative or positive effect which the society is receiving because of the industry, because of the firm located there, we say this is externality. So it means externality, it is either a positive or negative effect that is imposed to the third party by the action of another individual, either due to production or consumption, of which no compensation is made. So bear in mind that externalities, I said, it is a positive or negative effect which is imposed upon the third party due to the action of another individual, either production or consumption, for which no compensation, and this last statement is very important, no compensation is made. It means for externality to occur, it is a positive, that is, a positive or negative effect. And these effects, they are imposed to the third party. That is a positive or negative effect that is imposed to the third part. Third part means to another individual, to the bystander, the third part. And this effect, they are positive or negative, they are coming either from production or coming from consumption. But after causing that effect, either the affected individual or the affecting individual do not come to compensate with that effect. If that effect is not compensated, then that is what we call as the externality. That means here now, no compensation is made. It means you cause that effect to the environment, you cause that effect to another person, but you don't make compensation. Now, because you say the effect, they are two, positive or negative, it means the third part can be affected positively or can be affected negatively. Now, for example, if the effect is positive, the person to make compensation is the benefiting side, which is the third part. Because you are affected positively by another person, now you are the one to make compensation, either by bargaining and finding on how you can improve that benefit together with that person. If it is negative, it means the affecting individual is the one who is responsible to compensate or to internalize that cost or that negative effect. For example, I said if that industry, it is maybe a cement manufacturing industry, I said maybe it is causing negative effect. For example, pollution. It is causing pollution to the society. Now it means the firm who is that industry, it is causing negative effect by polluting the environment. It means the society is affected negatively. It means that firm or that owner of that industry should find a way to compensate to that society, because that society is affected negatively. So affecting side or the firm should find the possible way, the possible solution on how to internalize that cost to the society. Now, as I said, these effects, they can be compensated either by the affecting side or by the affected side. When it is positively affected, then the benefiting side should be the one to compensate by improving that action of the other person. That is for this one. Now, it means even in consumption, you can generate externality. For example, normally, try to think someone who is consuming or using a cigarette, smoking cigarette, when passing around the street. How do other people feel? That means they are affected negatively. But that person who is using that cigarette is not making any compensation. Those people affected. That is externality. We have also in normal tendency when we consume the byproduct. For example, you drink water, the bottles or the empty cans, you just throw them around. That is externality because you are affecting the society or another individual who is not part of your consumption, and compensation is not made. Then you say that is externalities. Now, let's see types of externalities. Types of externalities. Now, generally, we have two types of externalities. Depending on the effect you said, we have two types of externalities. For example, number one, we have the so-called negative externality. And we have positive externality. It means if the third part is affected negatively, then we say that is negative externality. That means the action of one individual, either producer or consumer, it is causing negative effect to the third part. As I said, for example, an industry is located there, then it is causing environmental pollution. So that pollution is negative. So that is negative externality. I said the example also of a person who is consuming a cigarette, smoking cigarette, then individuals are affected negatively. So the negative effect can be brought either by production or consumption. Now, when the third part is affected negatively, then that is negative externality. So we go back, you draw back the example of an industry, that will be negative externality. But also, when we speak of positive externality, it means when the third part is now affected positively, is the third part is benefiting, and there is no compensation, then we say there is positive externality. For example, we said when a person is or a firm has been constructed there, it might be providing employment to those people around there, employment opportunities. That is positive effect. But also assume a certain area where there are series of shops, maybe there are 10 shops, and those shop owners, they have not decided to hire security. But one firm or one shop owner then decided to hire a security. There are 10 shop owners and only one, and they are located in one area. And one firm has decided to hire a security. It means that security will take care for other shops. So it means other shop owners, they will benefit positively because of one person who has had that security, and those other firms will not compensate to the benefit they are getting. That is positive externality because they are benefiting positively, but they are not making compensation. Or let's say this is a village which do not have a road. Now, a person has decided to establish a ranch around that village, then constructing a road. It means the construction of that road by that person, it is benefiting the village positively, but the village do not compensate to that benefit, then we say that is positive externality. Now, these are two main forms of externality depending on the effect generated. But because of the source, we can add some other types. For example, we can add number 3 to get this positive or negative externality. They can come either from production. So if it is coming from production, then we say this is production externality. If it is coming from production. And we have also said sometimes it can come from consumption. So this is, we can also say consumption externality. So can be asked to differentiate consumption externality from production externality. It means these are the source where externality is generated. Here it's basing on the effect, negative, positive, but it is coming from production. It means production can produce positive or negative. Consumption can produce positive or negative. So both, they create externalities. That is 4. You can add another one. For example, we have the externalities called the transboundary externality or externalities. Now these transboundary externalities, they are also called the global externalities. They are sometimes called the transfrontier externalities. These are externalities which are generated along national borders. In those borders, those areas which they are bordering between one country and another one. It means the action of individuals in one side, they can affect the other side in those borders. For example, Tanzania, we have that one, the area demarcating between Kenya maybe and Tanzania. They so commonly call it Namanga and those areas. It means if there is any production activity taking place in that area, either conducted by Tanzania, it might be affecting Kenya positively or negatively. Then that is transboundary externality. For example, maybe Tanzania, around those borders, it can formulate environmental conservation programs. And those environmental conservation programs, they might be benefiting the other side. Then that is positive transboundary externality. But also, we might have an industry which is located around that border. Then that industry is causing negative effect to the other country. Then it is also causing negative externality. So transboundary externalities, these are externalities which are produced along those national borders or in boundaries. This is one. And the other one, we can have the so-called number 6, technological externalities. Technological externalities. Now, these externalities which are resulted from technology due to use of different technological equipment in production, in consumption, when they result into negative or positive effects to the society or to the third part, then we say those are technological externalities. So these are some forms of externalities which you can discuss in different ways. Then, having seen these types, let's check the causes of externalities. Causes of externalities. Causes of externalities. So here again you can discuss some causes of externalities which they are very common in economics. So these positive and negative externalities, they can be caused by the following factors. Number one, we have the so-called interaction between production, or let's say economic activities, interaction between economic activities and the environment. That is the first cause. Interaction between economic activities and the environment. When we say economic activities, as I mentioned before, we have so many, from agriculture, primary activities, we have secondary activities, tertiary activities, etc. These activities, they have direct relation with the environment. Remember, as economists, most of the firm, or we say producers, they draw resources from the environment. That means they depend on raw materials or inputs from the environment. After taking those resources, after using them, we return back to the environment in the form of waste. So you get the connection there. It means we depend on resources from the environment, but after utilizing those resources, they are returned back to the environment in the form of waste. Now, when we dump those waste into environment, that means it is externality. But the reason is because there is direct link between production or activities and the environment. For example, I said it means producers or firms, they draw resources from environment. That is environment. After using them, those resources, they are turned into byproducts, into waste. Then they are returned. That means they are returned in form of waste. Now, this waste, that means they pollute the environment. So we have taken these resources in the form of maybe from forestry, from water bodies, from the land in form of minerals, and other kind of resources. After using those resources, the byproducts, the waste, they are returned back to the environment in the form of waste. So already they cause externalities because of we return these products in the form of waste. For example, we take different resources, then after using them, for example, they are returned in form of maybe polluted gases, they are returned in form of maybe in terms of empty solid materials like empty cans, bottles, etc. But also returned in form of dirty water. We take water from the water sources like rivers, oceans. After using them, we pour it in the environment in the form of dirty water. So they cause pollution, and pollution is the best example of negative externality. This is the first cause. The second cause, we have the so-called lack of developed market. Now, when we say lack developed market, it means some of the environmental resources do not have enough market, or they have not developed into market. For example, we have a market for common goods like maybe beans in the market, maybe meat, this is rice, this is vegetables, I don't know, these are what. We can have a market for those goods. But we don't have a clear market for some environmental resources. For example, we don't have a clear market for air, we don't have a clear market for land, we don't have a clear market for all other environmental resources, including even water bodies like seas. Now, for that case, because of lacking proper market, then people misuse those goods. They misuse air, they misuse forest, they misuse other resources, because those resources, they have not yet developed a clear market. Now, due to lack of market, different societies, different individuals, they misuse those resources, then they produce externalities. This is the second cause. The third cause, we have interdependence between production and consumption. It means production and consumption, they have very great interdependence. They depend from each other. It means sometimes the relation between production and the consumption, they directly generate externalities. It means some goods, once they are produced, on consuming them, they generate externalities. For example, let's say automobiles. Automobiles, all automobiles, they are produced. But when we use them, they produce externalities. For example, when we use cars, those motorcycles and other form of automobiles and other vehicles, they produce externalities because they pollute the environment. Because due to the burning combustion chambers, they produce smokes, fumes, and others, of which they cause pollution of the environment. So automatically, because of producing these kind of items like cars, lorries, and others, when we consume them, they automatically generate externalities. This is one of the causes. Another one, we have the so-called incomplete property light. It means property light, it is a light which is identifying someone as the owner of a certain property. For example, we have property light for owning different items. In some areas, for example, in urban areas, there is property ownership of land. You can find this land is owned by someone. We have property ownership of buildings, whatever. But some of the environmental resources, they do not have complete property light. For example, there is no property light of owning air, space. There is no property right of owning some water bodies like oceans, though there are boundaries limiting, but there is no clear property ownership. Now, because of lacking this complete property right to own resources, then some individuals or some societies, they misuse those resources. For example, if we see air, there is no property owner of air, or this is water. For example, in rural areas, you can find rivers are passing there. Nobody is the owner of that river, so people, they can misuse that river. They can pollute it. They can do it in the way they want, then causing externalities in the environment. So because of lacking property right to own resources, especially environmental resource, then this one, it is causing individuals to misuse those resources. They pollute it, then causing environmental externalities. This is for that case. And the last cause, for cause of externalities, we have the provision of public goods. Provision of public goods. Again, when you provide public goods, that is number 5, provision of public goods. We said public goods, these are goods which they are non-rival, but they are non-excludable. Now, such goods, in the process of production, they create externality. For example, we said the issue of free rider. It means this is an indicator of externality, because these people who are benefiting from public goods, but they didn't contribute, that means they get positive externality, because they are benefiting from public goods, they are benefiting from roads, benefiting from national defense, benefiting from street lights, but they have never contributed. For that case, free rider, it is indicating that these people, they produce externalities. So these are some of the causes of externalities. And finally, we check the measures, or can say solutions, to externalities. So here, both the government and individuals may try on their level best to minimize or to reduce externalities. So private firms, the government, individuals together, they can find different solutions or different measures on which they can reduce externalities. Remember, externalities, they are causing inefficiency in production, they are causing inefficiency in consumption. So societies should try their best to solve these externalities. Now, we can divide these solutions in two parts. Part A, we can say private solutions to externalities. Private solutions here, it means private individuals, private firms, they can organize on how they can deal with the externalities. Private, without involving the government. It means private solutions, they are not involving the government. Private individuals, they can decide privately on how to solve this one. These private individuals, they can be firms or business owners, they can be individual people, consumers, or whatever. But they take actions or solutions to solve externalities. Now here we have almost these ones. For example, number one, the use of mergers, or we say merging. Merging. To merge means to join. Here, different firms, for example, doing the same business, doing the same activity, they can join from having many firms to have only one firm. For example, let's say in a certain area, there are 5 industries, but they are doing the same activity. That means each industry is causing pollution, pollution, pollution. Now, those industries, they can merge, they can join. After joining, there were 5. We had maybe industry A, we had B, we have C, we have D, and we have E. All of these industries, they are producing the same good. Let's say all of these industries, they are located in one area probably, and they are producing, let's say, cement. That's an example, or any whatever. Now, to reduce externalities or pollution, then these industries, they have to merge. When they merge, they form one industry. Now, let's say this industry now is called the F, but this industry has been formed after merging A, B, C, D, and E. Now, they form one firm. So at least this single stronger firm can be one, but at least it has minimized the pollution which was caused by 5 firms. This is by merging. Then the second one, we can use the so-called bargaining. Bargaining here, to bargain means to come into agreement. The affecting society, or the affecting side and the affected side, they can come into agreement on how they can internalize the benefit. So private individuals, they can bargain with the externality generating firm on how to reduce. For example, if the firm is causing negative effect to the environment, that means those individuals in the society, they can sit with that firm to discuss on how that firm can compensate to the negative effect they have caused. For example, let's say people around Wazo Hill in Tegeta, in Dar es Salaam there, they have been affected by the location of Wazo Hill industry, cement industry. How can they discuss? They have to discuss with that owner on how that owner of the industry can compensate to the negative effect of pollution is causing to the environment. Then on bargaining, they come into general conclusion on how they can reduce that externalities by making compensation. Either the benefit obtained or the profit obtained can be done by internalizing the society, by providing some incentives, whatever, but when they come into bargaining. This is one of the measures. But also the third measure, which is very common, we can use the so-called social conventions. Social conventions, these are some items or some, it is like education-based idea of which people should be educated on the importance of preserving the environment. For example, some people, they are polluting the environment because they don't know the role of the environment. So we can teach our kids, or in schools, we can give them some ways to work to motivate them from polluting the environment. For example, we can say we can use this word: littering is bad. Littering is bad. So it means from schools, from those maybe kindergarten, they can be taught that littering is bad. So whenever they are growing, they know that littering is bad. For example, in some of the cities like Dar es Salaam, the biggest problem of pollution, because people, they don't know the impact of littering. They're just throwing those waste everywhere because sometimes they don't know the impact. But if we teach our children from when they are young, from kindergarten, that littering is bad, then this one can be used to convert their mind from being negative producing externalities, then they become positive producers. That is the idea. But also you can say, for example, the conventions like do to others as you wish them to do for you. That means what you do to others. For example, when you throw those bottles, what do you expect your people to, other people to feel? So do to others as you'd like them to do for you. If you have those conventions, then they can make us to be converted into positive minds. This is private solutions to externalities. Then the last part, it is the public solutions. This is now under the government. Now under the government, they can also use different solutions to deal with externalities. And number one, it is introduction of tax. Introduction of tax. It means to all polluting firms or to all negative externality bearing firms, the government can impose tax to each output produced by the externality generating firm. It means if firm A is externality bearing firm, the government can impose tax in each output Q produced by this firm. It means each output produced, there is a certain percentage of tax you have to pay. This will be used as incentive to discourage this firm from increasing pollution or increasing production. For that case, we can minimize pollution or minimize externalities by imposing tax. Despite this, tax can have positive and negative effects, but it is very useful in controlling externalities. One of the positive effects of introducing tax to control externalities, this one, they can generate government revenue, because when you impose tax, it is a source of government revenue. On the other hand, it can create more employment opportunities, because those tax officials who will be collecting tax, they will create jobs. But also, another importance, it will lead into reduction in externalities. In terms of negative, when we impose tax on each output produced, expect increase in price, so it can lead into inflation. Likewise, it can discourage firms, then reducing output produced, then it can create shortages in the economy. So they have negative and positive effects, but it is one of the methods that can be used to control externalities. Number 2, we can use the so-called tradable permits. Tradable permits. Now, tradable permits, these are trade-based solution, where the government prepared the so-called permit. A permit is it is allowing a firm to pollute or to produce externality to a certain level. That means if the government gives you a certain permit as a firm, that permit is allowing you to produce pollution or pollutants to a certain level. That means you cannot produce above a certain limit. For example, if they say maybe those people, for example, in developed countries, they can measure the amount of carbon dioxide emitted in the environment by each industry. Now they can say you should not emit more than this unit of carbon dioxide. If you reach that unit, that means you have to make trade between the firms. So it means if we have firms, firm A, firm B, firm C, maybe and firm D, these firms, they own different permits. For example, firm A may have 2 permits, this one may be 3 permits, this may be 5 permits, maybe this one 10 permits. Now, if firm A have produced and all permits are utilized, then firm B can search permit from other firms by exchanging, that is trading between them. So it means if firm D has extra permit, that firm can sell this permit to another firm, to another firm, to another firm. That's why we say this solution, it is a market-based solution, because it is allowing firm to trade those permits among them. And the other one, in terms of those public solutions or government solutions, we can use the so-called legislation. Number 4, legislation. When we say legislation, not legislation, legislation. Legislation means coming from legislature. That means something going with the laws. So it means the government here can enact some laws, either through the parliament, which will be prohibiting the use of certain inputs which they are causing pollution. So if we find that there are inputs which they are causing externalities, which they are causing negativity to the environment, the government can set laws which they are either banning the use of those items. For example, this government, they have completely imposed the laws to the use of plastic materials, and they are no longer in the market. That is one of the importance and one of what the government has done, and it is very positive to the environment, because we can no longer find these plastic materials or plastic bags, plastic items. They are no longer in use, because they have used the legislation to impose total ban to the use of those inputs, because they were causing negative effect to the environment. So this is a credit to the government because of that step. They have used the laws to ban the use of plastic materials. You cannot find plastic materials in Tanzania this time because of the use of this law. And because those ones, they were causing negative externalities, now they are completely being stopped. The last point, or the last solution, it is the use of subsidies. We all know the effect of subsidies in the economy, so the government can subsidize those firms' produce externalities to reduce. So subs will be used as incentives to encourage firms from producing externalities. And these are some of the solutions which we can use in solving or dealing with the externalities. Now, this is the end of our elaboration in terms of externalities, and now try to pass in different books to get more knowledge on how externalities they operate and how they can be solved. Now, we can observe from the screen there where there are some questions for discussion. You can discuss with your friend, or you can discuss at your own time. Try to pass in different books, as I said, to see how you can solve those questions. Now, we have two questions there. Question number one, it is asking, describe how does the society benefit from both positive and negative externalities. Describe how a society benefit from both positive and negative externalities. It means here you show how the society may benefit from these externalities that we have discussed. So the knowledge you have grasped from the class, use it on how and indicate how the society can benefit from those externalities. The second question, clearly distinguish the following terms as they are used in economics. It means you have to distinguish these terms. Number one, you have to distinguish between social cost and social benefit. The second, external cost and external benefit. The third, private cost and private benefit. The fourth, positive externalities and negative externalities. And the last one, pollution tax and tradable permit. So try to pass through these questions and try to get those answers from different books and from the knowledge you get from the class. Thank you very much for interesting lesson, and this is the end of our discussion. Meet you next lesson.